So what in the world does a 2025 Peterbilt 579 cost? Well, stay with me till the end of this video and I'll share my quotes with you. Did you know that Peterbilt currently has 16.8% majority of the market share? That means that 1 in every 5 Class 8 trucks is a Peterbilt. That's pretty impressive. Well, in this video, I'm not just gonna talk about the beauty and how nice it was, both inside and outside. I must say, they did a really good job, both with the interior and the exterior. But this video is for those that wanna dive a little bit deeper. This video is going to go into, number 1, the repairs and maintenance of this unit. As we all know, it's not just about beauty. I mean, a lot of the trucks are really nice out there, but are they gonna make us profitable? And that's the question that I wanna answer in this video. In this video, we're gonna dive deep into the fuel consumption of these Peterbilts. We're gonna go into a cost comparison between a Cascadia for most ordered parts. We're gonna see how much the Cascadias run and how much do these Peterbilts run us. Then we're gonna go into shop rates. We're gonna randomly call a few shops to see what they bill hourly in order to fix these Peets. We're gonna talk about the resale value. So, I mean, most fleets or owner operators are gonna drive this thing for about 4 or 5 years and then they're gonna sell it. But what are they actually worth after 4 or 5 years? Well, stay tuned because we'll answer that question in this video. And lastly, Peterbilt's been doing a pretty aggressive job at trying to onboard me as a customer and selling me these Peets.
I don't know if I would feel comfortable driving one of these red trucks.
So I think it would be a really good idea to go over the quotes that I've received for these Peterbilts. Now let's dive into it. So right before I get into those 5 headings, I think it's really important that we ask the audience, why in the world do they love Peterbilts? I mean, Peterbilt has some real diehard fans out there, so I conducted a poll with a couple of thousand drivers and I gave them an option. I really wanted to know, what is it about these Peterbilt 579s that they love about them? We'll start from the bottom up, which is most popular. So they're definitely not known for their advanced technology because that scored the lowest at 9%. They're definitely not known to be durable and reliable because that scored 16%. What did come shocking is that they're known for their fuel efficiency. That came in at 33%. And number 1 at 42% believe that they are by far the most comfortable trucks out there. Now, I can honestly say that from the moment I sat into that Pete, I must say that you can really see the difference in a driver comfort. And that's why it scored number 1. 42% of them said that the reason that they're getting them or the reason that they love them is because of the driver comfort. Another thing that I noticed when I sat inside it today, I actually closed the door and that door felt like a solid door.
I have to say that it feels like durable. It feels like it could take a beating.
I definitely felt that while sitting in the driver's seat. I mean, I'm not a truck driver by no means. I don't have my Class 1 license, but I can honestly say I do a lot of videos inside those Cascadias. I do a lot of videos inside the Volvos. It's the first time that I sat inside a Pete. Feel, you know, the comfort on the inside, the chairs. I mean, I love it. I mean, probably for sure I got the upgraded version. I could see the difference and feel the difference for sure when I sat in it. But again, it's not all about beauty. We got to get down to the nitty-gritty stuff and we really need to start answering the questions. Are we going to be profitable with these trucks? I mean, this video is really for you fleet owners out there. A lot of you fleet owners, I mean, know what you guys are getting, but I've never owned a Pete as a fleet owner. I've always, you know, traditionally went to the Cascadias and the Volvos. I mean, primarily I say I go for the Cascadias, but I do have some Volvos because, you know, my European drivers, they love their Volvos. But the same thing about the European drivers loving Volvos, I have to say the American and the Canadian drivers love their Peets. So I said, you know what, why not? Let's exercise this option. If it makes sense financially, we'll actually get into it. So the first thing that I need to analyze, and I'm doing this video more in a sequence of what I do in order to analyze, is this truck going to be a fit for me here at ET Transport? So the first thing we need to know is the fuel consumption. That's number 1. Why? Because the fuel consumption is the second biggest ticket item that we have as fleet owners. Number 1 is the driver's pay, and number 2 is the fuel consumption. So I do have an owner operator here in my fleet, and I really wanted to compare the fuel consumption of that truck. Now, why not share the stats with you guys? Let's open it up. Now, I know this driver has the Cummins engine in it. So we have a unit number 250 in our fleet, and he is an owner operator and he loves his Peterbilt, but I'd love to see what the fuel consumption is for that Pete. Okay, so here we have his stats. Okay, so unit number 250 is a 2022 Peterbilt 579 with a Cummins engine. Now you can see here that the driver drove in the last 30 days 12,212 miles. So he does produce mileage and he's only getting 7.6 miles per gallon. Now, I can assure you that if it was one of our trucks, the first red flag that I see is the amount of hours that this driver's idling. So we would place an order for these units for sure with either a battery pack APU unit or a diesel APU unit. So our fuel consumption probably, because this guy's idling so much, if it was one of our fleet trucks, it would probably get about 8.6 miles per gallon for sure. So am I happy with the fuel consumption? Yes. Is there any red flags? No, it's actually really good. Now, if I compare it to any one of my other trucks, I can honestly say that somebody that's idling as much as him, it's actually a fuel efficient truck. So did they score well on the fuel consumption? Absolutely they did. So fuel consumption, 7.6 miles per gallon. Now, all of my trucks drive to the Midwest USA and Southeast USA. So they start here in the GTA or in New Brunswick, and they all pretty much do the same routes. So 7.6 miles per gallon. If you factor in that the guy was idling 186 hours, that literally means that he's 18 days on the road idling, 10 hours per night. So again, he's idling literally every single night for the duration of the 10 hours. That truck doesn't shut down, okay? So, I mean, they scored well. So second exercise that I'm gonna do is a parts comparison. Now, because I purchased Volvos and Freightliners, I'm gonna compare them actually to both. I did ask my safety department to do this for me. So let's get into it. So number one is a condenser. Now, if I look at the Volvos, that's $25.78. If I look at a Freightliner Cascadia, it's $1,022. And if I look at a Peterbilt, it's $1,366. That scores a yellow. So full bumper. A full bumper is $1,453 with the Volvo, $986 with a Freightliner, and $6,821 with a Peterbilt. Damn, that seems really expensive. Third thing, a headlight. A headlight costs $923 for a Volvo, $926 for a Freightliner, $1,266 for a Pete. An alternator, $1,237 for the Volvo, $1,124 for a Freightliner, and $813 for the Peterbilt. Well, that's a green. Next, we have a starter. $536 for the Volvo, $416 for a Freightliner, $1,197 for the Pete. Another red. Brake pads front, $130 for the Volvo, $134 for the Freightliner, and we have $229 for the Peterbilt. Now we have wheel bearing front inner, $95 for the Volvo, $63 for the Freightliner, $111 for the Pete. Also red. Air filter, $404 for the Volvo, $123 for the Freightliner, $388 for the Pete. New ignition key, $29, $13, and $30. Okay, so I think it's quite clear what we have over here. Where are these prices coming from? So these prices are honestly just selecting a random Peterbilt, calling them and asking them for prices. Now, I feel like, you know, an owner operator, I don't want to use the powers that I have as a fleet owner. I actually want to randomly just call people and I ask them to fill out, you know, pretending like I am an owner operator out there, because that's really, you know, a majority of my audience are owner operators, and I think it would be really good for them to see what they're going to be paying. Now, if I was to open up an account with Peterbilt and I was to flex the leverage that we have because we are, you know, a medium-sized carrier, we'd probably get about 25%, maybe even 30% off on all these parts. But I don't think it's fair to do the video based on what, you know, the wholesale prices that I get or the discounts that I get. And then I did the exact same thing for Volvo and the exact same thing for Freightliner. So on number two, how did they come on the parts? I have to say that they failed on the parts. The third thing we're gonna do is randomly call a couple of shops and ask for their hourly labor rates. Let's go into Pennsylvania. Peterbilt truck dealer in Bringsville, Pennsylvania. Let's give them a call.
What can I do for you?
I'm just wondering, what are your hourly labor rates over there?
185.
185. And when do you have availability if I was to bring you a truck? When's the first availability you have to diagnose?
We can basically do any day for diag repairs, depending on the amount of work it's going to take. If it takes more than 3 hours, 4 hours, then we have to put it on the schedule.
But if it's a quick fix, then I could be in and out, right?
Yeah, the earlier the better. We can put it within, I mean, if you're coming in without schedules, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. I love that, okay? I love the fact, the way he answered. I love the fact that he said you can bring it in. Really, as an owner-operator, as a fleet owner, I really want to know what in the world is wrong with my truck, and I don't want to wait 7-8 days for that. I want it in, I want to diagnose. Now, to fix it, that's fine. I could be a little patient for that. But definitely, I like the way he answered those questions. Now, let's call the Peterbilt dealership in Wisconsin.
Peterbilt services, Joseph.
I was wondering, what are your hourly shop rates at your location for the Pete's?
It's $175 an hour.
$175 an hour. Okay, and when's your first availability to diagnose a truck?
First one would be Wednesday for sure. Otherwise, if it was here sooner, we might be able to get it worked in.
So Wednesday as if like in 2 days?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. Bye. So we got Pennsylvania at 185, Eau Claire, Wisconsin at 175. The first available appointment is in 48 hours. I would score them at 8 out of 10. I just don't have the patience to wait. So let's call one more. Let's do South Carolina. Again, these are just random spots, guys. I'm just calling around.
Service department, Dave speaking. Can I help you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good, myself.
Good, good. Can you tell me, what are your hourly shop rates there?
$198 an hour.
198. And when is your first availability to diagnose a truck?
We don't do appointments, first come, first serve. Typically, if you get here early, earlier the better. We can get you at least looked at before the day's out.
So before end of day, I would know at least what's wrong with my truck, right?
Yeah, at least, yes, sir.
Okay.
Can't guarantee a fix, but at least you know what's going on.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I have to say I'm very impressed. And why am I impressed? Because I've done this exercise with the Kenworths, I've done this exercise with the Freightliners, and I must say that I'm very impressed. One, because of the shop rates, okay? 185, 175, 198. I mean, I've done the same exercise with the Kenworths, and they are well over $200 an hour. The second thing that I loved is with every single one of these phone calls, I actually asked, when is the next availability? I mean, it's extremely important that when, a truck is down, somebody can have a look at it and at least diagnose the problem. And I hate when somebody from my safety team comes up to me, says the truck is down in God knows where, and then I say, okay, when is it getting looked after? And they're like, oh, the next available appointment is next week. Well, I don't have the patience to wait until next week. I want to know what's wrong with that truck. So how do they score on labor rates? They actually scored a 10 out of 10 because every single one of these locations did a really good job picking up the phone and giving me the answers that I want. There wasn't, hold on, I have to transfer you, hold on, let me get somebody else. They all knew when the next available appointment was, which is the most important thing for me as a fleet owner. Okay, so we talked about the parts comparison. They failed with that. Fuel consumption did very well with that. Repairing of the units did very well with that. There's two things left over. Number one is the resale value. So we got to talk a little bit about resale value, and then we're going to talk about the quotes that I received, and then we'll decide together if they are worth it or not worth it. So resale value, what do you guys think about resale value? So I believe that Peterbilt and the Kenworth, they do have a good resale value to them, meaning that if I buy them brand new and I try to sell them after 5 years, I will be able to get probably US maybe $45,000 on a 5-year-old truck. Canadian, I'll probably get about $60,000 for that 4 or 5-year-old truck. How does it compare to the Volvos and how does it compare to the Freightliners? I actually think it's in line with the Freightliners. Now, it's very, very important the kind of engine that you have on these things, because if you have a different type of engine, I mean, there's two engines that you can get into it. I'm not going to get into the details of what, but the Cummins engine is probably worth a lot more as a resale value. You could see that in the auctions. I can see it black on white when I'm buying a truck or when I'm calling to inquire about a truck. Depends on the engine, and the Cummins engine has a very good reputation for itself and retains value. So how do they do on the resale value? Fairly good. I mean, really good. They definitely passed on the resale value, and now we're going to talk about the quotes on how much they are worth. Okay, so Peterbilt has been trying to onboard me as a customer. I have two prices. Okay, I'm going to give you the numbers in Canadian dollars, and then I'll convert that into US dollars. So there's two separate prices. 2024 Peterbilt 579 80-inch sleeper tandem drive. One of them was for $205,000 and the other one is for $195,000. Identical truck. The only difference between the both of them is their engine. So we're going to talk about the one that's $205,000. I believe that's the one with the Cummins X15 500 horsepower. These are my initial quotes. I didn't bargain with them. I didn't ask them for any discounts. Divide that by 200. Let's do that into US dollars. We're talking about $150,000 US. Now, I want you guys to understand that these quotes do not include the warranty and they do not include the battery pack APU unit that we usually get. Okay, so how do they compare price-wise? I have to say that they are in line. So they're probably about in line with the same prices as the Freightliner Cascadias, but they are cheaper than the Volvos. The Volvos are about $20,000 more than these prices over here. So $205,000, is it in line price-wise with where the Cascadias are? Absolutely they are. All right, so here's my final conclusion. We went over parts comparison, a big failure for sure. I have to say that they need to improve when it comes to the parts. Fuel consumption, satisfied with that when we're comparing it to the Cascadias and the Volvos. The repairs and the labor rates of these units, we're satisfied with that. So the quotes wise, price wise, they did fairly well, and the resale value, they did fairly well. So 4 out of 5. So I want you to know that when I do this exercise with each and every one of these trucks, so whether I do this with the Freightliner, whether I do this with the Volvo, or I do this with a Kenworth, they all fail somewhere. Nobody is 5 out of 5 for sure. So in closing, we do know that approximately 1 out of every 5 trucks are a Peterbilt. So would I add these trucks to my fleet? Absolutely I would. And you know why? That's because they're known for their comfort. And that's the first thing that I felt when I sat inside one of these units today. I felt that they are comfortable. I felt that they are durable. I felt that they are different. They're built different. For me, as a fleet owner, the most important thing I would have to say from all 5 of these is the fuel consumption, because that is the second biggest expense for all small fleets. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video on the 2025 Peterbilts, and who knows, you might see an ET transport truck that's a Peterbilt sometime soon. I'm Ronen, and I'll catch you in my next video.